What if I told you there are giant rocks out there in America that just move, completely on their own? Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive right into a natural phenomenon so utterly bizarre that scientists literally couldn't explain it for decades.
I mean, picture this. Massive stones sliding across a flat desert floor, leaving these long, mysterious trails right behind them. And the crazy thing, they do it without any help.
There are absolutely no ropes.
No heavy machinery towing them along.
And definitely no people pushing them. That is the terrifying, impossible setup of the moving stones of Death Valley. It's no wonder that over the years people actually blamed aliens or thought supernatural forces were haunting the harsh desert. So let's dive into exactly where this is happening. Deep inside Death Valley National Park, you'll find one of the absolute strangest places in all of America, Racetrack Playa. Imagine a massive, dry lake bed, completely surrounded by rugged mountains and baking in extreme heat. The ground is perfectly flat, cracked, and just empty.
But then, visitors started noticing something that totally defied logic. We're talking about huge boulders here, rocks weighing hundreds of pounds, appearing to just move by themselves across that dirt. And behind every single one was a deep, long trail carved straight into the earth. Absolute proof that these incredibly heavy stones had somehow traveled across the playa.
Now you might be wondering, who's watching them move? Well, that's the absolute strangest, almost terrifying part of this whole mystery. Nobody, ever, saw them move. Visitors would just find the carved trails left behind in the dirt long after the fact.
Because of this, the moving stones became one of America's greatest unsolved puzzles. Scientists kept coming back again and again, trying to crack the case. But every single time they showed up, boom, the rocks were already in totally new positions, and their movement patterns, completely bizarre. Some would slide in perfectly straight lines, while others would just suddenly zigzag or change direction. A few even traveled side by side like buddies before mysteriously drifting apart.
And you know how human nature works, right? Because literally no one had ever witnessed the movement with their own eyes, these wild theories spread like wildfire. Some folks were convinced there were hidden magnetic forces pulling them from deep beneath the earth. Others straight up claimed UFOs and aliens were the ones dragging them around. Paranormal investigators even threw their hats in the ring, suggesting the whole desert was just haunted.
This incredibly frustrating search for answers went on for decades. I mean, researchers went as far as planting cameras all around the playa, just hoping to finally catch a stone in the act. But year after year passed, and nothing. Not a single moving rock was ever caught on tape.
But then, a massive breakthrough. Scientists noticed something completely unexpected forming under these rocks during incredibly rare winter conditions. Just the right amount of rainwater would collect on the playa and then freeze over at night into a super thin layer of ice.
So here's how it actually works, and it's brilliant. When the morning sunlight hits that ice, it starts to melt, breaking into these large, floating sheets. Then, those infamous strong desert winds whip up and literally start pushing these sheets of ice across the slick, wet ground. The heavy rocks get trapped in the ice, and incredibly, they just get dragged right along with it.
And the speed? We're talking extremely slow, only a couple of inches per second. To put that into perspective, it's so incredibly slow that it makes complete sense why nobody had ever spotted it happening with the naked eye.
But, even after scientists finally figured out the physics, the whole thing still feels completely surreal. It really does.
I mean, just imagine it for a second. Imagine standing completely alone out there in Death Valley at night. It's dead silent. There's nobody around for miles. But somewhere out there in the pitch-black darkness, these giant, heavy rocks are just slowly, silently scraping their way across the earth.
Because the weather has to be absolutely perfect for this to happen, the conditions are incredibly rare. And that means some of these boulders might sit perfectly still for 5, maybe 10 years, before they suddenly decide to go for another slide.
So, what does this all mean? Well, to me, the moving stones of Death Valley prove that nature can totally create mysteries that are way stranger than fiction. For decades upon decades, that harsh desert kept its weird little secret perfectly hidden from the entire world. And honestly, even knowing how it works today, seeing massive rocks move across the ground like that, it still feels completely impossible.
So are you ready to uncover some more of America's dark secrets? Make sure to hit subscribe to USA Mystery Map for even more deeply hidden, mysterious stories from all across the country. See you in the next one.